The winds of autumn carried the scent of salt and ash across the fjord as Thora Jarlsdottir stood at the prow of her father's longship. Her fingers tightened around the carved wooden dragon head as the coastline of the Saxon settlement came into view. The blood of her ancestors ran cold in her veins, demanding vengeance for the slaughter of her 3 brothers at Saxon hands. "Odin watches us today," she whispered, the words carried away by the wind. Her father, Jarl Gunnar, had finally permitted her to join the raid after years of proving herself with sword and shield. At 20 summers, she had earned her place among the warriors, though many still whispered that a woman's place was at the loom, not in battle. "Remember, daughter," her father said, joining her at the prow, his grey-streaked beard whipping in the wind, "the Saxons understand only strength. They murdered your brothers without honor, like cowards in the night. Today, we bring Odin's judgment." Thora nodded, feeling the weight of her dead brother's memory. "I will not fail them, father." "Or you?" The belief had been carved into her heart since childhood. Saxons were without honor, without worth, enemies to be conquered, never trusted. Her destiny was clear, to avenge her family and bring glory to her clan. Love, marriage, children, these luxuries would come later, after blood debts were paid. As the ships beached on Saxon shores, Thora lifted her shield. The warriors erupted from their vessels with war cries that shattered the morning stillness. Smoke soon billowed from burning cottages as villagers fled before them. Thora fought methodically, each sword stroke a prayer to her fallen brothers. She had separated from the main raiding party when she heard a child scream from inside a burning dwelling. Against all reason, she hesitated. Glory lay in battle against warriors, not in the slaughter of innocents. Before she could decide, a Saxon man burst from the burning door, a small child clutched in his arms. Their eyes met across the chaos. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his face streaked with soot, golden hair tied back. In one arm he held the child, in the other, a sword. "Run," he commanded the child in Saxon tongue, pushing the boy toward the forest edge without taking his eyes off Thora. She raised her shield, expecting him to attack, but instead, he lowered his sword slightly. "You have honor," he said in broken Norse, surprising her. "Fighting men, not children. I saw you hesitate." Before she could respond, a burning beam crashed between them, and more Saxon warriors appeared from the tree line. The man disappeared in the chaos as Thora rejoined her people. That night, as they celebrated their successful raid aboard their ships, anchored offshore until dawn, Thora could not forget the Saxon's words. How did he speak Norse? And why had he acknowledged her honor, a quality her father insisted the Saxons lacked? 3 days later, fate twisted their lives together again. While scouting inland with 2 warriors, Thora's party was ambushed by Saxons. Her companions fell quickly, and though she fought fiercely, a blow to her helm left her dazed. When she awoke, she found herself bound in a small hut, her weapons gone. The door opened, and the same Saxon man from the raid entered. Now clean of battle grime, she could see his features clearly, strong jaw, ice the color of the summer sky, and a scar that traced from his temple to his cheek. "You are awake," he said in halting Norse. "Good. Kill me and be done with it," she spat. "I will not beg, Saxon." "My name is Yorick Valiantson," he replied, kneeling to offer her water. "And I have not brought you here to die." "Then you are a fool. My father will burn your entire settlement for this." "Perhaps. But first, we must speak of your brothers." Thora lunged against her bonds. "Do not speak of them with your dishonorable tongue." "Dishonorable?" His eyes flashed. "It was your brothers who came as traders and left as murderers. They killed my sister and her husband, claimed they cheated in trade." "Lies!" Thora hissed, but a seed of doubt planted itself in her mind. Her eldest brother Yorick had been known for his quick temper. "I have something to show you," Yorick said. "Something that might make you question what you believe." The following day, with her hands bound before her, Yorick led Thora through the forest to a small clearing where a single ash tree stood. Beneath it lay 2 grave markers, lovingly maintained. "My sister Edith and her husband Alfred," he said quietly. "Your brothers came with furs to trade. Alfred offered a fair price. Your brother Yorick wanted more, demanded more. When Alfred refused, they drew swords." "And after?" Thora asked, her voice hollow. "After, we found them. The village wanted vengeance immediately. But our lord, Athelstan, counseled patience. When your brothers returned with more Vikings, we were prepared." "So it was an ambush, not a cowardly night attack," Thora whispered. "War begets war," Yorick said simply. "Vengeance calls for vengeance. Where does it end?" That night, as she lay in her bindings, Thora's mind churned with doubt. What if her father had twisted the truth? What if her brothers had not died as innocents? The foundation of her hatred began to crack. Over the next days, Yorick continued to guard her. He explained that he had learned Norse from traders, that before the conflicts, their peoples had sometimes exchanged goods peacefully. He showed her a small community where some Norse had even settled, taking Saxon wives. "Why do you show me this?" she demanded one evening. "Because I saw something in you during the raid," hesitation before the child. "Not all Vikings are bloodthirsty raiders, and not all Saxons are cowards. Perhaps there is another way." "There is no other way," she insisted. "Blood demands blood." Yet each day, the walls between them crumbled further. She learned he had been a warrior's son who now advised Lord Athelstan. He learned she was skilled not only with sword but in rune reading and saga telling. Despite herself, Thora began to see Yorick not as Saxon, but as a man, honorable, intelligent, and increasingly difficult to hate. On the 7th night of her captivity, raiders attacked the settlement, not Vikings, but Danes from the north. In the chaos, Yorick freed her bonds. "Go," he urged, pressing her sword into her hands. "Return to your people." Instead, Thora stood beside him as the raiders breached the palisade. Back to back, they fought, her shield protecting them both as his sword claimed Danish lives. When a Danish axe cut through his defenses, slicing deep into his shoulder, Thora dragged him to safety, tending his wound as she had seen the village women do. "Why did you not flee?" he asked through gritted teeth as she bound his injury. "There is no honor in abandoning a worthy opponent," she replied, but they both knew her words carried deeper meaning. By morning, the Danish threat had passed, but a new complication arose. Lord Athelstan discovered that Yorick had freed her bindings. "She fought alongside us against the Danes," Yorick argued before the Lord. "She saved my life." "She is Jarl Gunnar's daughter," Athelstan replied coldly. "The same Jarl who has raided our shores 3 times this season. Her value is as hostage, not ally." That night, Yorick came to her. "You must escape," he whispered. "Athelstan plans to use you to force your father's submission." "Come with me," she said impulsively. His eyes widened. "To your people?" "They would kill me on sight." "Not if you were under my protection." The word surprised even her. Under cover of darkness, they slipped away, taking a small boat upriver. For 3 days they traveled, hunting, sharing stories of their gods and customs. In the close quarters of their journey, something inevitable bloomed between them. On the third night, as they camped beneath the stars, Thora found herself telling him of her childhood, of growing up in her brother's shadows, of trying to prove herself worthy of her father's regard. "You are unlike any woman I have known," Yorick said softly, his fingers tentatively finding hers in the firelight. "And you are nothing like the monsters in my father's tales," she replied. When his lips found hers, it felt like destiny, the kind the Norns weave that not even the gods themselves can unravel. They reached Viking territory at the turning of the moon. Thora led Yorick to a small fishing village where her father's cousin Gunhild maintained a steading. "Cousin!" Gunhild exclaimed upon seeing Thora. Her welcoming smile faltered at the sight of Yorick. "You bring a Saxon to our hearth." "He saved me," Thora said simply, though it was far from the whole truth. "He is under my protection." Gunhild, a widow who had seen enough of war, reluctantly agreed to shelter them while sending word to Jarl Gunnar of his daughter's return. For 2 weeks, they lived in fragile peace. Yorick proved his worth by helping with fishing and repairs. Some villagers eyed him with suspicion, but others, seeing how he worked without complaint and spoke respectfully of their ways, began to accept his presence. In the quiet evenings, away from judging eyes, their bond deepened. Thora taught him proper Norse, he shared Saxon poetry. Their touches lingered, their nights grew intimate, and Thora found herself imagining an impossible future. "My father comes tomorrow," she told Yorick as they walked along the shore one evening. "He brings 20 warriors." Yorick's face grew solemn. "Then tomorrow I may die." "No," she said fiercely. "I will not allow it." "Thora," he said gently, taking her hands, "your father has lost 3 sons to Saxons. Do you truly believe he will accept one at his daughter's side? Then we will leave, sail west to the new lands." "And you would abandon your family? Your duty? Your gods?" The question struck her like a physical blow. Could she forsake everything she had been raised to believe for this man? Would the gods forgive such a betrayal? Morning brought longships on the horizon. Jarl Gunnar stepped ashore with warriors at his back, his face breaking into rare joy at the sight of his daughter. The joy curdled to rage when Yorick stepped from the shadows. "Saxon filth," he roared, drawing his sword. "You dare to stand on Norse soil?" "Father!" Thora placed herself between them. "He saved me. He is under my protection." "Protection? Have you lost your mind, daughter? These are the people who slaughtered your brothers." "And our people slaughtered his sister," Thora countered. "Blood has been paid with blood on both sides." Her father's face darkened. "Step aside, Thora. This ends now. If you kill him, you must kill me first," she declared, drawing her own sword. The gathered villagers gasped. "Enough!" Gunhild stepped forward. "Gunnar, before you spill blood on my land, remember the laws. If the Saxon claims guest right and has not broken it, even you must honor the old ways." Jarl Gunnar's nostrils flared with barely contained fury. "Very well. We return home tomorrow. The Saxon remains here." "I go where he goes," Thora said firmly. "Then you are no daughter of mine." Gunnar spat, turning away. That night, as her father's men drank in Gunhild's hall, an elderly warrior named Hakon sought Thora out. "Your father's pride blinds him," the old man said, settling beside her at the shore. "But there is something you should know about your brother's deaths." Hakon revealed that he had been with her brothers on that fateful trading mission. "Your brother Yorick was in a rage that day. The Saxon offered fair price, but Yorick wanted more. When refused, he drew first blood." "Why did you never speak of this?" Thora demanded. Your father was drowning in grief. Would the truth have eased his pain? Or yours? The old warrior sighed. But now, with you willing to die for this Saxon, the truth must be known. Before dawn, Thora woke Yorick. We must go to the thing, she whispered. The assembly of free people. If Hakon testifies about my brothers, perhaps the truth can end this feud. Your father will never agree, Yorick warned. He must. By law, any free person can call for judgment at the thing. Even a Jarl cannot refuse. The next morning, before her father's planned departure, Thora stood in the center of the village. I call for thing judgment, she announced loudly. On the matter of blood debt between our family and the Saxons. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Her father's face twisted in fury, but tradition bound him. The thing could not be refused without losing honor. 3 days later, they gathered at the sacred meeting grounds. Elders from 7 villages formed a circle as Thora presented her case. Hakon testified to what he had witnessed. Other traders who had known the Saxons spoke of fair dealings before the bloodshed began. Yorick stood proudly, speaking in his improved Norse of his people's suffering and desire for peace. When asked why he had saved Thora rather than killing her for vengeance, his answer silenced the assembly. Because hatred is a poor foundation for the future, he said. Our people can be enemies forever, or we can find another way. Thora showed me honor exists in both our peoples. The judgment, when it came, was unexpected. The elders declared the blood debt equal on both sides, Saxon and Norse lives balanced in the scales of justice. No further vengeance could be claimed by either side without breaking the peace oath they now established. Jarl Gunnar's face was stone as the judgment concluded. The thing has spoken, he said coldly to Thora. The blood debt is settled. But I have no daughter who would take a Saxon to her bed. Father, she began, but he turned away. For the next moon, Thora and Yorick lived in the margins of the village. Some accepted them, others turned aside. They spoke of leaving, of finding new lands where their union would not carry such weight of history. Then came the day the Danish raiders returned, this time with 5 ships and 100 warriors. They struck the village at dawn, setting fire to the hall where Jarl Gunnar was guesting. Thora and Yorick awoke to screams. Without hesitation, they took up arms and rushed to defend the village. In the chaos of battle, Thora saw her father surrounded by Danish warriors, fighting desperately with a wounded arm. She cut her way toward him, Yorick at her side. Together, they formed a shield wall with her father, driving back the attackers. Like this, Yorick shouted, demonstrating a Saxon shield technique that allowed them to lock together more effectively. Gunnar, pragmatic in battle if nothing else, followed the Saxons' lead. The tide turned. The Danish raiders, expecting easy plunder, found themselves facing unified resistance. When their leader fell to Yorick's sword, they retreated to their ships. In the aftermath, as the wounded were tended and the dead prepared for burial, Jarl Gunnar approached Thora and Yorick. For a long moment, he said nothing, then extended his arm to Yorick. You fight well, he said gruffly, for a Saxon. And you as well, Yorick replied, clasping the Jarl's forearm, for a Viking. A ghost of a smile touched Gunnar's lips. Perhaps the thing's judgment was wise. Old hatred served no one but our enemies. 3 moons later, as summer reached its peak, Thora and Yorick stood before the sacred oak. Their hand-fasting ceremony combined elements of both their traditions. Jarl Gunnar, still stiff with residual pride but softening with each passing day, presented Yorick with an ancestral sword, acceptance of the Saxon into their family line. Lord Athelstan, persuaded to attend with a small honor guard, brought gifts of Saxon craftwork. The two leaders, seated at opposite ends of the feast table, found themselves deep in conversation by night's end about trade possibilities and mutual defense against Danish incursions. As Thora and Yorick completed their ceremonial circle around the sacred oak, she whispered, "The Norns weave strange fates." "Strange but wonderful," he replied. "From enemies to this, I would not change our path." "Nor I," she said, though the journey was harder than most. In the years that followed, Thora and Yorick established a steading at the boundary between Norse and Saxon lands. Their home became a place of trade and cultural exchange, where Norse and Saxon customs blended and evolved. Their children grew up speaking both tongues, honoring both peoples' gods, and carrying forward the truth that had nearly cost both their lives, that honor knows no borders, and that even the deepest hatreds can give way to love when courage points the way. In time, songs were sung in both Norse and Saxon halls of the Shieldmaiden and the warrior who ended a blood feud and began a new chapter between their peoples. And though the old ways would eventually fade as new beliefs swept across the land, the lesson of their union endured, that what seems impossible becomes inevitable when hearts prove stronger than the hatred of generations.